What's up, guys? Thank you for messaging. I want to talk about the huge news that just came out yesterday, which is that Harry Maguire is officially a Manchester United player. And of course, that's huge news for all of us fans because ever since Nemanja Vidic and Rio Ferdinand were kind of kicked out of the club, we haven't had actual good center backs ever since then. So it's great to see a top-level center back who has had some really good seasons in the Premier League, of course, with Leicester, finally coming into the club and looking like he could potentially be a defensive leader alongside the extreme talent of Wan-Bissaka, alongside Luke Shaw, who has definitely improved over the years, and alongside, of course, his now center-back defensive partner, Victor Lindelof, who has very much improved over the course of last season, and of course this preseason has done pretty well as well. So I definitely think there's going to be a pretty solid defense this season. As long as those four can stay fit, then we have a really solid chance of having a pretty good defensive record. I think that if you look at the best defenses in the league, I mean, if you look at City, you look at Liverpool, you look at Tottenham, I don't think that they're much better than us in terms of who they have in defense. I think we're pretty evenly matched with them. Our biggest issue and the biggest difference between us and them is the fact that just the way they develop play is so much more fluid, it's so much more natural, and we have to force things. And when we don't force things, things just don't come off naturally, I guess you could say. They just don't really work in a everything just seems so labored, whereas those teams, everything just happens. It just seems like everything happens because it's going to happen. Whereas with us, it's just so it's almost like seeing a machine or a robot do its thing. It's like, it's going to do these three things, and it's going to do them the same way every single time, and it's either going to work because the team's not prepared for it, or it's not going to work, and it's just not going to work the entire game. So there are plenty of issues, but I think that right now, defensively, the team is definitely in a pretty solid state, to be completely honest. And I'm very happy with the signing. I think this is going to be something that really improves us moving forward because, he's a dangerous center back in the air, both defensively and offensively. He actually scored against us last season. So he is a guy who can score, he can defend. He's a very complete center back. He's very physically strong, of course, and he's actually pretty quick for a guy that big. So he's definitely not a bad player, and I don't know if he's worth 80 million, but really, who's worth 80 million except for Cristiano Ronaldo, Leo Messi? Who's really worth that kind of money? Nobody. A defender, of course, is difficult to justify spending that kind of money, but there's two things you take into consideration. Number one, United are the third richest team in the world, so they can spend that much money at least once a season because we haven't really spent a whole lot this season. And doing that, it's not going to be a big deal. He's not even taking huge wages, also taking that into consideration, making like 100 grand a week, which compared to other people like Alexis Sanchez is absolutely nothing. So he's on good wages, and I would say that the money is worth it because it's a player that we desperately needed, in a position that we desperately needed, and of course we signed him from a rival English team, not a rival English team, but from another English team who doesn't need any money, who are in a pretty good state both financially and in terms of the talent they have at the club, so they don't need to sell. So, of course, you're going to go and spend a lot of money for an English international playing in an English team that doesn't need to sell. So, of course, the price was always going to be very high, and I don't have any quarrels, I don't have any issues with the club spending that kind of money on a center back, because if they'd have spent that kind of money on another striker, that would have annoyed me a lot more because we already have plenty of offensive players. Or if they'd have done that on a left winger, we already have Sanchez, Rashford, and Martial that can play those positions, it would have bothered me. But in a position like center back that we've had such a huge weakness over the years, I'm perfectly happy with what they did, and I'm very, very happy with Harry Maguire, especially because, something that he has in common with Daniel James and Wan-Bissaka is that all three of them have been very open about how they really look forward to performing for the club. They don't seem like they're just here for the money. They're here or the fame, all that stuff. They're here for, I'm sure, that stuff as well, because that's a huge part of football, but they're here for the love of the club. Wan-Bissaka, apparently, he grew up wanting to play for United, and that's something that apparently, I don't remember if there were pictures out there, but I think there were. But regardless, he's mentioned that a lot, and people around him have mentioned that he's mentioned that a lot as a kid. So, of course, that's something to take into consideration. Harry Maguire, his mom came out, and this could be true, it could also not be true, but there have been a lot of speculation for a while now that he was a United fan as a kid, and of course his mom came out and said, I think it was, it's crazy to see my son grow up wanting to play for United and see him finally achieving it and something like that. So whether that's true or not, I don't know. I don't have proof. There was no picture of him wearing United shirts. But regardless, if that's true, then he's going to give everything he has for the club. And Daniel James, he's a young kid who's there for the right reasons. So I look forward to seeing all three of these guys come into the team and do their thing. And I'm hoping to see another huge signing as well. Allegedly, we're going to be possibly bringing in Mario Mandzukic, would be a great role player for the club, a guy who's a leader. So we have a good leader in defense in, say, David De Gea plus Harry Maguire. Have a leader up front with a guy like Mandzukic, and that's great to have. That really is great to have. And we'll see what happens with Pogba. We'll see what happens with Lukaku, who I'll probably talk about tomorrow, because right now I don't have a lot of time today, but I really want to just fucking go off on that dude because he's really pissing me off with what he's been doing. So I sincerely hope that they find a way to sell this piece of shit, because what the fuck is this guy on about? He makes that much money. He's acting like a fucking prick. So if he does get sold, I'm going to be very happy about that at this point. I am truly embarrassed to have bought one of his jerseys. Like, I owned the gray jersey from a couple of years ago, and I am really embarrassed to have spent money on that piece of shit, because I thought he was going to be there for a long time, and most importantly, I thought he was a serious professional. But to do this type of shit, it's just ridiculous. So I mean, I will cover that probably in a couple of days. I'll do a podcast about it, covering that, and alongside a few other topics like MotoGP and some NBA. So there's plenty to talk about in the next few days, so definitely check out the channel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you're always notified anytime a video comes out. That's a great help for me, and hopefully you guys will enjoy the content I'm bringing you. Hopefully you guys will stick around. So thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.